Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello, Dave here from toy-polloi. Welcome to part 3 of the charity Millenium Falcon restoration project that we've been working on over the last few months. Here in front of me you can see how we got on at the end of part 2. The Falcon is starting to look pretty good. It's got most of the bits. It's still got quite a few bits missing, but thanks to some very kind donations I now have pretty much all the parts I need to complete this Falcon. So let's go ahead and get on with this project. So the first job to do on this Falcon is to get the console piece so that it actually fits back in place. Now pretty much on every Falcon I've ever had you'll find that the little peg that goes here is snapped off. Sometimes this peg is also snapped off, but in this instance we're just missing the one here. Now I've previously shown on my first sort of fix-it guide for the Millenium Falcon how to replace that using a screw by drilling a small hole inside it and then inserting a screw, but I've actually thought up a better way of doing it. So let's get this one ready and we'll get this one reinstalled on the Falcon. So my new method for doing this involves my new favourite fix-it part, and that's Lego. I did a quick search for another job that I was trying to do, and I found these Lego parts. They're called long aerials. As you can see, it's quite a long aerial with a little bobble on one end and just the normal sort of Lego fixing at the bottom there. But the good thing about it is it's sort of a thick piece of Lego that then goes to a little thin piece of Lego. So once I got this in, I actually thought this would be a much better way of fixing this console section. So what I've done is on this console, I've drilled a very small hole, as you can see there, and the hole is the same diameter as the thin part of this long aerial. And then once I've done that, I've then trimmed down one of these aerials, just cut the end section off. So you can see here I've just taken the end part and a small part of the thin bit, and now with luck this will fit exactly in the little hole that I've drilled there. Just let me get that in place like so, and there you can see it's almost a perfect replacement for the missing peg. So I could glue this little peg in place, but actually at the moment I'm not going to, because when the Falcon is put back together and you push this in place in the Falcon, this little peg actually holds pretty nicely and tightly into this sort of hole on the Falcon, and it'd be quite good to still have some sort of movability if I ever need to take this out and modify something before we get the sort of the rest of the cockpit finished. So for now that's a perfect fix. So if you ever want to do this yourself, find these little bits of Lego. You can buy them. I bought 4 of them I think off eBay for a couple of pounds, and it seemed quite a useful part to keep. One of the donations I received was a training ball and arm. Now this is a reproduction one. The ball is slightly bigger and the training ball arm is a different colour, but unfortunately on this Falcon the little peg that the arm sits onto has been snapped off, so we need to replace that. Now luckily again this is a standard size, and it is the same size as sort of Lego aerials. Here I have the end of a bit of a Lego aerial, which is the closest colour grey I can find. It actually matches the legs sort of reasonably well, so I was going to use this. And just as luck would have it, this fits perfectly inside the little training arm sort of attachment hole there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to drill out a little bit of this plastic here and glue some of this in and sort of shape it and stick it in, and then the training ball arm can go back in place. So let's get this drilled out and then we'll shape this and glue it in place. As this is a bit of an aerial sort of from midway down, I'm just going to use a file to gently round off the edge of it so that it looks a bit more curved. Something like that should do, and then we can just sit that in place. It obviously needs to be quite short because really the training ball just needs to sort of sit over the top of it. So I'm going to cut it short and then I'll glue that in place. So again, just to cut it, I'm just going to use a pair of plastic cutters that I have here. It really doesn't need to be very long, so I reckon about that long would do. So just trim that off. So I'm just going to blob a little bit of super glue in that hole like so, and then squidge this in place. It's fairly fiddly, but once it's in and glued, never have to do it again. So there is the peg now in place and glued quite firmly, so we can just check that the training ball still fits. So if I just pop that over the side like that, you can see the training ball now is in place and the leg can still rise up to its full height. So that's the training ball all refitted. Before I go ahead and put the cockpit back together, I've got one final donation here, which is this cockpit glass. As you can see, it's a fairly warm bit of cockpit glass. I can probably improve the scratches using a bit of T-cut, which I will do towards the end, but the main problem with it is that the front section is snapped off. This should be a full circle of clear plastic. If I slot this into place in the actual cockpit itself, and you can see it should be a sort of a circle bit that goes all around the front there, but that is unfortunately snapped off over time. So what we're going to do is to try and repair that. Now, someone did suggest to me a while back, and I really wish I could remember who it was. I'm really sorry about that, but they suggested that the little display stands that I buy are a perfect match for this circular bit, and do you know what? They are. Look, you can see if I hold this up to the front, it's pretty spot on. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and replace this broken bit with this little display stand I have here. And if you want to see what these display stands are, check out one of my recent videos where I review these and some Masters of the Universe display stands. Obviously, as this is a stand, it's got a little peg on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off using my plastic cutters here. And then hopefully I should be able to file that down or sand it down a bit just to make it a bit flatter, but this should cut off quite nicely, like so. Actually, that's not a bad cut there. I can use my little knife to sort of smooth that a bit, but that's not so bad. And then we need to obviously remove the remains of this front part so that we can then glue this back in place. So I've not actually ever cut this cockpit plastic before, but I think I'll just try with a knife to start with and see how well it cuts. Yeah, that doesn't look like it's going to cut too bad, so I think if I just can carefully cut around, I might score around first just to make it a bit easier. Cut with this knife. So there I've managed to cut that off. It's not too bad to cut. This is a fairly sort of rubbery plastic, so it's got a bit of give to it, and I've been able to cut it off pretty smoothly. There's a few little sort of nodules on there which I can just carefully trim at the end, but again, that's not so bad. And now that should just fit on quite nicely there, so that is a pretty good fit. I think before I glue this on, I'm going to clean this up just with a bit of T-cut. I'm not going to film this because I do it out in the garage because it smells quite bad, the T-cut stuff, so I'll just get that done and then we can see about gluing this on. Now that that's all done, the last thing to do is to glue this in place. Now the cockpit itself is quite springy, and it needs to be because when you push it in place it sort of bends and is distorted a bit. So I'm going to use some glue that stays a little bit bendy when it's gone off. So I'm going to use this EvoStick Serious Glue. I've used this before on other projects and it seems to work quite well. It takes quite a long time to dry. It's like takes 6 minutes to do sort of a little bit of drying and then 24 hours to go off completely. So you do have to be a bit patient with it, but it is pretty good glue. So first thing is to gently put some glue around this edge, and then we'll place the remains of the stand on it, and it should stick quite nicely. It's now been about 2 hours and this looks like it's glued pretty well. Obviously over 24 hours it will go off a little bit more, but that looks like a pretty good glue to me. And I think the cockpit looks pretty nice. So let's put this all back together. If I can just squeeze this into the actual cockpit cover itself, get that clipped in place, and we'll check that it actually does fit still around the plastic moulding. So there it is clipped in, and that looks really good actually. That's a very good join. So I think I can now go ahead and we'll put the whole of the cockpit back together. Here we have the cockpit cover, and here we have the console section that I fixed earlier, obviously still without the pin stuck in. So the thing to do is to drop this in place a little bit, and then we'll push in the console because I don't want to put too much stress on the replacement pin there. So doing it this way means that everything's in place. You can push this cockpit cover in afterwards, but I don't want to put too much sideways pressure on the console. So let's just squeeze that in. That will push down. And that looks pretty good. The console is holding in place while the cockpit opens, and then we should be able to still close everything. And if we look at the front section there, that new little bit of glass works really nicely, so I'm really happy with that as a fix. In the last video I mentioned that I did have the radar dish bracket, but it had been broken. The little peg on the bottom has been snapped off. Now I can work out a fix for that. I would probably use Lego to replace that, but in the meantime another donation has come in and I have a replacement version of the radar dish holder and also the radar dish now, so there's no actual need for me to do any fixing on that, although I may cover that in a future video. So we can just drop that in place there on the front of the Falcon. I've also been sent the Smugglers hatch, so that's a very nice donation there as well. I'll give a big shout out to everybody who donated parts at the end of this video. So that piece can just slot in there, as we know, or for storage it also slots in the top section of the back panel, but for the moment I will just slot it there. Overall, this Falcon is starting to look really nice. The repairs I've done so far have worked really well. It's still a fairly battered and beaten Falcon. There's a few little dings and cracks in the shell itself and a couple of little bits missing, and it is a little bit yellowed in places, but considering this was just an empty shell at the start, it is looking really nice. So the last thing I need to do, I think, is to sort out some replacement stickers. Now there are a few stickers left on this. Some of the bits that I've been sent, if we look here at the back panel, that does have some original stickers, as does the console inside the cockpit. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and print myself out another sheet of the ones I've used in my previous restorations, and I'm going to replace the ones that need replacing and leave the original ones that are still there. I don't think there's any point in taking those off because they do look quite nice, and really original stickers are a much nicer sort of option than the repro ones that I produce. So let's go ahead and we'll get the stickers put on and then check out the Falcon in its final full glory. And here we have the finished restored Falcon. As you can see, it does look pretty nice. On close inspection there's a few areas that are a little bit worn. It's still a little bit yellowed on one side. There's a few little cracks and breaks on the shell of the Falcon, but considering how this started and all the bits that have been donated by various people over the internet, it's actually turned out really nice. Some of the bits I've been donated, as you've seen, have been pretty worn themselves, like the cockpit glass and other bits, but it's amazing what you can do with little bits of plastic that people send from all over the world, and so the end result looks really nice. So I want to say a big thank you in this video to a few people: Steve Edmonds, John Aspinall, and sorry to Paul Senior because I got his name wrong in the previous video, so thanks to those people for sending parts in for this. Now this Falcon, now that it's all finished, I will be auctioning via my Facebook page, so go and join me up there on Facebook. Come and see what's going on there because I post a lot more stuff there that you don't see in these videos, and this will be auctioned for the Stroke Association. Any money raised will go directly to them. I will be auctioning this and I'll include a few other bits and bobs with it, like toy-polloi badges and a few other little gachapon Star Warsy things that I picked up on my travel. So I'll be auctioning this and a bunch of other stuff via my Facebook page. So that auction will be happening in the next few weeks. Come and join me there to find out more and to have a chat if you want to chat more about this restoration. So really a big thank you to everybody who's taken part and taken the time to send bits of old Falcons to help me restore this. It's really been quite a good fun project, and as you can see, you can take a sort of hunk of old junk that someone else would have thrown away and still make a pretty good toy out of it. So I really hope that's been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy-Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow Toy-Polloi on Twitter and Facebook.